This meeting is being recorded.
We're on page 151 in the grammar book. 151. We've been talking about the last couple of weeks, the just different usages of words and, making sure that words are being used correctly. We talked about affect and effect and a couple of other different ones. So we're moving on to than and then. And a lot of times when we're saying it quickly, they sound the same. So then and then, but if you emphasize the A and than, it kind of helps with, making sure it's being used correctly. So anyway, we're talking about the usage of than and then. Usage errors occur when the word is used incorrectly. The hound was brighter than its litter mates. So than is a word used to show comparison. Than is often used with comparative adjectives. This is pretty easy actually, because it doesn't sound right if you use it wrong, so you can just go by that. What happened then was unexpected. Then is an adverb meaning next or immediately after. So you're going to just cross out the incorrect use of than or then, and then, pick the right one. So Robert then knew something was wrong. More than anything, he longed to alert his uncle. And then we're going to do a little review of comparative adjectives and superlative adjectives. I always think of super in the word superlative. Just, it means like more than two adjectives. So whenever it's like a super lot of adjectives, I know that sounds goofy, but that's how I remember stuff like this. Comparative is you're comparing two things, but superlative would be more than two. So that's what helps me remember it. Super lot. There you go, from an English teacher. Hey, these little tricks, that's all we have sometimes. So last week you learned the difference between comparative and superlative. In order to use the correct form of the adjective to determine how many items are being compared, Balin was the largest hound in the litter. So this sentence compares Balin with each individual hound in the litter, which could include or would include 3 or more puppies. So since there's more than 2 that you're comparing, it's considered superlative adjective. Largest is used. So Balin was larger than the other hounds in the litter. Although this sentence mentions many hounds, the word than forms a comparison of 2 items. This sentence compares Balin with the litter, which is a group. So the comparative adjective larger is used. It's like I said, just how it sounds is the best way to decide which one to use. So this is a review at the bottom here. Read each sentence and determine if it is a comparative adjective or superlative adjective. Fill in the blank. With comparative, you're going to add either more or for comparative, 2 items, or superlative, superlot, add most or est form of the adjective in parentheses. So this one, the word is clever. How should we use clever in this sentence here, Jasper? What do you think?
Was the most clever?
Yes, most clever or cleverest. Either one of those would work, because we're comparing 1 to 5, even though it's saying litter here, but it's being more specific of 5 pups. So most clever is good. You could put that in there. And then the next one with fast.
Fastest?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
You're right, fastest. He was trained to be the fastest runner of them all.
I sort of said it before I read it, so
Oh,
that's why I said
that was a good,
oh, I should read it.
you got lucky on that one.
Yeah.
What about the next one?
Sharper.
Yep. My allergies have been going crazy, so I might have to blow my nose from time to time, but
All right.
all this stuff that's blooming out there. Sharper, yep, his eyesight was sharper than the eyesight of the other pups. How about the last one?
More alert.
Yep. Those are pretty easy. Like I said, if you just, you obviously have been speaking English for a long time now, so these things are just going to be natural for you.
My mom said 3 years.
3 years. At least 3 years, right?
Yeah. Coming up on 4.
All right. That's, believe it or not, that is it for the lesson today. So, yeah, you've got your 4 pages to do. It's getting harder. How's it going in grammar for your homework? Are you doing okay with it? Are you struggling with it?
I think I'm doing okay. It definitely helps to have the pages to look at afterwards too, because
Yeah.
most of the time I miss something. So
Okay.
it's helpful to have something to show me where it should be.
Good. And then are you able to catch it then on the other pages once you see what it is?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. That's what I was hoping for. I think that's the best way too, because otherwise you're just kind of going blind with it. I mean, back when we first started the class, I was trying to help by saying, okay, this is this and that's that, but it's like so much that I'm glad that's working out where you can look at the answer key and then be like, oh yeah. And then know for the other pages. So it is kind of nice. They give you, the 2 options here so you can know which one sounds best for that part. So another clue I thought of that I saw is if you here's the answer key for that first page, which I'll attach to the homework like I usually do. But if you try to just peek up here, it'll tell you how many to look out for on the page. If you wanted to kind of peek at that before you did the page, that might help you too. So, I mean, it's a little cheat sheet for you, but it sounds like whatever you're doing is working. So that's the main thing. All right, so we're done with that. We're going to go ahead and just talk about research again. And I'm just going to go through a little review with you, and I'm going to write this down on a lined piece of paper, but I'm like 99.9% sure you already have this as notes somewhere in your binder. So you can just watch what I'm writing down. You don't necessarily have to write it down. This is the process of doing a research paper. So that's kind of the final thing we're doing together in this class. We only have 2 weeks left. This is crazy. So technically, yeah, we have, I'm going to give you an assignment for the rest of this week, and then you only have 1 more week worth of assignments. So this is going to be a little tight right here, finishing up this research paper, but I'm giving you 2 weeks to do it. The good news is I'm not teaching you anything new. We're just going to work on it together in class. So it'll help. Hopefully you don't have too much to do on your own. So, and feel free to ask me anything along the way, and just, this is going to be more conversational and really easygoing, low key today. Okay, Jasper.
All
right. So talking about the research process, and I'm just going to I'm just going to label this research process, and I think you have this already. So step one in a research process is obviously finding the subject. And remember, the subject is the big thing you're talking about. So you got to know what your subject is. Obviously, you know yours is going to be Stan Lee. But you know, it could be anything if you get an assignment for science or social studies or, you know, any other subject you have. What did you say you were doing in your college class that you're taking? You're doing a paper.
Psychology.
Psychology?
Yeah.
Are you doing a paper for that one?
We already did the paper for it.
Oh, okay. What was it? I forgot the subject for the paper.
Mine was you get to like choose a psychologist to base it off of, and then you write about them and what their what their big experiment was. And mine was it was like social conformity. That's what it was.
Ooh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
That's a good one, especially right now.
Yeah.
Wow. I mean, that's been around since the beginning of time, but it seems like right now it's like a big.
It's more visible.
It's what?
More visible.
More noticeable.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're crackling, but I think I got what you were saying. That's good though. That's yeah, that I would love to pick your brain about that one to find out what you learned there. But anyway, finding that subject, I'm just going to put that's the big thing that you're talking about. And then of course from here you're going to list possible topics. That's what we've been practicing for different things in this class, skimming through articles, kind of getting a feel for what each paragraph is mostly about. Remember when we did chimpanzees and we kind of just looked at the first and last sentences and kind of picked out some keywords in there. We go, okay, yeah, this is mostly about this and this is mostly about that. So coming up with your list of possible topics is the next step, which is what we're going to do next for this subject. So once you come up with your list, you should have at least 5. You could have 6 or 7 or whatever, but you're only going to pick 3 topics. But when you're listing your possible topics, there should be more than 3. And that kind of helps you determine the common theme between your different sources. And I know we've talked about this before, but if you find a common thing about the subject, that's a lot easier to write about. If you just have one source available with a topic, I mean, you know, then you're only relying on one, and it would be better to have a mix. So that's something to keep in mind. And then when you go to choose topic, it doesn't bother me. I mean, I've got dogs. I understand. When you go to choose the topics, you need to know how long your paper needs to be. For this paper, it's only going to be 3 paragraphs. That's the good news. But you might have I don't know, how long was your paper for your psychology class?
I think 6 or 7 pages.
Yeah.
That was because we had to have a title page and a resource page, so it was really only like 5 body pages.
So that's usually how professors assign it. They'll either say how many words they want or they'll say how many pages they want. So that gets a little tricky because really, if you can determine how many paragraphs you need, that is going to help you determine how many topics you need. So this is just a strategy that you can take with you to other classes, but just keep that in mind. If you can break it down, like, okay, let's say if you have a title page and a bibliography page, that leaves 4 pages. So, and you can kind of guess that each page will have 2, maybe 2.5 paragraphs. We'll say 2.5 per page. 2.5 times 4 is what, 8, 9, 10? Is that right? 10 paragraphs, roughly? Yeah. And then you'll have your introduction paragraph and your conclusion paragraph. So let's say your assignment is 4 pages, 10 paragraphs. You have your introduction paragraph and your conclusion paragraphs. That leaves 8 paragraphs of content. So you would choose 8 topics about the subject. That's how you would kind of work it out in your head, how to determine that. So you need to figure out the number of paragraphs needed. Now, if it's like a 5,000 word essay or a research paper, they want 5,000 words, you're just going to have to kind of guess a little bit. And there's probably something online where you could go, how many paragraphs is 5,000 words? And I'm sure somebody's done the math for you. So you can, the key is figuring out the paragraphs. That'll determine how many topics. So, and then that'll determine, what kind of research you're going to do. As you're looking into those paragraphs and the topics, you're going to choose what's relevant, important, or interesting. We know we've talked about this before, so that's why I'm just kind of going through this quickly, but interesting information is going to be the easiest to do because obviously you're going to pick topics that are interesting to you because then you'll actually possibly enjoy it a little bit more. And whatever's interesting to you is probably going to be interesting to somebody else. So you might have to, if you're doing a bibliography, things that are relevant are going to be like when he was born, a little bit about his background, what kind of family he came from, where he lived. That kind of stuff is not necessarily interesting. Sometimes it is, but relevant when you're doing a paper on a person, a biography. So, but if you're doing it on, like you were talking about, your psychology paper, then that would be, you have more room to pick what's interesting, like what topics are interesting socially and things like that. So, okay. And then from there, you got your KWOs. And that's when we do for each. So you're going to have 4 sources, but I'm going to guess maybe there might be times when all 4 sources have information you need, but typically it's going to be probably 2 or 3 sources that you'll see some information repeated. And that's where you're going to probably get another big piece of paper out and do your outlines. I know it's tedious, but it's just going to help you get it out of your head onto paper visually, and then do the fused outline from there. So 5 is fused, KWO. And this is for all sources. This one's the fused KWO that you're going to use. And then from there, that's where you write paragraphs with checklist. Now, you're not always going to have a checklist with you for future assignments, but you could, I'm sure in your head, remember some of the things on the checklist, or you can actually hang on to this binder and pull out some of these checklists to help you make sure to use those dress-up words and sentence openers. And then the very last thing would be the bibliography. And it sounds like you're familiar with that because you had to do that for your psychology class. This is the MLA format. So, and then I showed you the little trick on Google Docs, so you can't go wrong there. Any questions about this process right here?
No.
Okay, so this is handy, like through college. So, all right, let's look at the checklist really quick. That's on page 131. A couple of new things on there. Just for you to keep in mind. So this coming week, you're going to be focusing on your outlines, working through all those outlines, making your fused outlines. And then the following week is when you pull it together and you actually write out your paragraphs. But this is just to give you a heads up. These are all the same. Obviously, you've got all 6 dress ups. Here we've added the clausal, the www.asia.b. And just remember, this is an opener. And you cannot count your opener and your dress up as the same. So just make sure when you use this opener, you also include somewhere in the paragraph a separate adverb clause. VSS, the very short sentence. And then I think all of your band words are pretty much the same as they were. So still doing the topic clincher rule, all that. Title rule. Okay, so you're pretty familiar with this. We've been working with this since the beginning of time. So should be pretty easy for you to keep that in mind when we get to that point. Okay, so now let's talk about what you have for Stan Lee. Tell me where you, like, what your sources are, what are the, like, what websites did you find and what you have there?
I have biography.com, bedtime history, Britannica, and it's either live about or live about, but I think it's live.
Okay. Those sound pretty good. I'm not familiar with live or live about. Let me look that up really quick. Is it a .com?
Yes.
Okay. Let's see. Can you, I wonder if, could you in the chat maybe pull up your articles and then copy and paste the URL in the chat? And maybe I can pull it up from here.
Yeah.
And then do you guys have a printer at home?
Yeah.
Okay, so as you're pulling them up, go ahead and print them. And if you don't see a print button, you can use those 3 dots to print.
Okay. All right.
Okay, got that. You can do that for each one. Okay, cool. That totally worked. Bedtime stories. Interesting.
I was trying to make it one thing that I think I would have done that easily.
Oh, you're totally breaking up. I didn't catch any of that. Try it again.
I was gonna try to send them all in one paragraph, but I don't think that I could.
Oh, no, that's okay. Yeah, you can do separate chats for that. Yeah, you're totally glitching again. Hopefully you can hear me okay. Oh yeah, this is a good one. You even have a Stan Lee quiz you can take on this website. Okay, got those. Cool. I'm gonna step away for a minute. Go ahead and print those. I'll be right back. Okay, Jasper. Okay, can you hear me okay, Jasper?
No.
You can't hear me? Ah.
The whole thing like froze for a second.
Oh no. How about now? Can you hear me speaking at all or no? Can you hear me at all? You can't hear me?
No.
Ah, dang. Um, I put a chat. Yes. Yeah. And Melina, I'm sure you're trying to listen to this recording. Basically from here on out for the rest of class, I'm going to just try to work with Jasper. His internet is being really glitchy. So, but basically we're using class time to get going on your research paper. So I'm going to keep it recording, but some of the stuff is probably not going to be worth watching. But anyway, you're going to be working on your research paper. Let me know if you need any help with that. Here comes Jasper back. Hopefully that helps. Can you hear me okay now?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Hopefully that helps. So, okay. So I got your links. Are you working on printing those?
Our printer doesn't have any black ink in it right
Oh,
now.
no. I totally relate to that too. It's like, it's always something. So, You're gonna need to print these. So if you don't have ink, you might be able
My
to.
my grandma's house has a printer, so I can just use that.
Perfect. That would be good. It's going to be way easier having a paper copy, even though I know it sounds old school, but so what we can do in the meantime is pull it up and look at it together. I'll share my screen. And then what I want you to do is basically make a list of possible topics. And then you'll just have to go back and I guess what you can do is just go back. Let's see, how can we do this?
For the topics you were talking about, was that what we were supposed to do for the homework yesterday?
Yeah.
All right, I did that.
Print those. Okay.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah, that was what I wanted you to bring to class, a paper copy. But I understand the printer situation, so hopefully your grandma can be available sometime today so you can get going on it. But I guess what we could do is take notes on a lined piece of paper, put the source, so you can, what you're going to do is assign each source a letter, A, B, C, and D, and then do what we did for the chimpanzee one. And then what did we do? Yeah, we did the chimpanzee. I think that was the last one. Yeah. So basically you're going to look for common topics for A, B, C, and D. So do you have one in mind that, do you care what you label A, B, C, D, or does it matter to you?
No.
Okay. So since I pulled this one up, here's what I'm thinking. So at least, because we got about, 15 minutes, we could get something started. I'm just gonna have to flip back and forth between my share screen here because I can't share more than one thing. So let's just call this one, you can just call it Stan Lee and possible topics. And then we'll just call this first one, I think it was biography.com.
Mm-hmm.
That was one of your sources. Yeah. That can be source A. Bedtime stories was the other one. Bedtime.
Yeah.
Bedtime history stories.
Oh, yeah. Sorry.
That's okay. History stories. Let me go back to that. So I just put bedtime history stories. That can be B. Britannica. Can be C. And live about. I think it's live, probably. I don't know.
Yeah, that makes more sense.
Can be D.
To me, at least.
Okay. Okay, so then what from here, we're just going to start with, let's just start with that biography.com one. So now I'm going to share that so we can look at that together. You understand like the big idea on how to do this, right, Jasper?
Mm-hmm.
Does it make sense? Like, do you have any questions? Okay, because I want to make sure you get the big picture of how the process goes with it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Okay, so then from here, this is where you're probably just going to have to go back once you print these articles and write in the margin. But this is kind of nice. This article is like really nice. Look at that. They labeled each section for you. So who was Stan Lee, and then early life and career. This is pretty much labeled for you. So I would see, Stan Lee went on to work for a company that would eventually become Marvel Comics. So this is kind of an overview. And then his early life and career. So I would put those in two different categories, but here's what I'm thinking. And tell me if you have a different thought, okay? So I'm open to it. I would go, I'm just going to draw a line here, and I'm just going to put early life. I have a feeling each one of these is going to have early life, but I'm only looking at A right now, which is the biography.com. And then we had career. That's a possible topic. We go back. This is how Zoom is. I can't split my screen. So we got the Fantastic Four, co-creating. This is part of his career, I would say. In the early 1960s, Lee was called upon by his boss to create a series of Marvel comics. That's part of his career. You know, of course, Marvel is going to be probably a really big topic. Do you have any thoughts while I'm going through this? I don't want to take up all the conversation.
Maybe like his path to success.
Yes. Would that be under this part here where it's talking about co-creating the Fantastic Four? Okay, so he started with that, it looks like.
Yeah, I think that could work because it's like he started doing that and then gradually went to do bigger things.
Okay. Would that be separate than career, or would that be part of his career?
Oh. I'm actually not sure about that.
I think it would be, because let's see, let's look back a little bit here. Let's look at early life and career. So he was born, it's talking about his, you know, where he was born, his siblings. And then the second paragraph here, Lieber, I'm not sure who that is, who later shortened his name to, oh, okay, that's him. Lee, so that was his original name, Lieber probably, was a writer, went on to be hired as an office assistant at Timely Comics. Oh, and became an interim editor for the company in the early 1940s. So he just was like a low guy on the totem pole, got a job, happened to be at this comic place. And then Lee also served domestically in the Army during World War II, working as a writer and illustrator. So he started out as a writer and an illustrator. That's pretty cool. So that's how he was exposed to comics. And it sounds like from there, in the early 1960s, Lee was called upon by his boss to create a series for Marvel Comics, Timely's new name, that could compete with rival DC Comics hit title Justice League of America. So it sounds like DC was first. Okay, so I think career could be like how he got started. And here's what I think. Let me share my screen with what the notes are. We can put right underneath this path to success, because I really do like that idea. And I'm just going to group it together with that. So that's going to be kind of one and the same, because it sounds like it wasn't like he started, you know, busboy at a restaurant and then he was janitor at a school. And it wasn't like he had these random jobs as a kid, you know. he started out by writing, and it just kind of naturally went from there. So that's interesting to me. So I think his career and path to success could be in the same category. Does that make sense, Jasper? Okay.
Yeah, sorry.
Okay.
I thought my dogs were gonna like run in and start barking, so I muted just in case.
Okay. And that's okay if it happens. Like I said, I can't even count how many animals I got right now. And man, those pigs I bought, they are destructive. They are like wreaking havoc on my farm. So I'm like, they're going to drive me crazy. I don't know if you've been around pigs much, but they are hilarious. Like I can't help but laugh, but I'm mad at the same time, but I have to laugh at them because they're obnoxious. They're so obnoxious. They just like tear through stuff and break stuff, and they climb on each other and they knock stuff over. And it's like, dude,
I like
calm
how
down.
the dogs are, because we have a spot on one of our walls where they chewed, but it's not like the corner, it's the flat part.
Oh yeah. Oh my
Which is
gosh. Right in the middle of the wall.
confusing. Yeah, well, it's at the bottom, but it's confusing how, or like why they were so determined to chew on it that they just went for the hardest possible way.
Okay, so that happened to us too when we got, because we have like, she's a lab. She's a black lab, but she's also mixed with something else, and we think it's Kelpie. Have you heard of that breed before? Kelpie?
I don't think so.
It's like a cattle dog, and so she's got markings that are kind of similar to a Rottweiler with the little dots like on her eyebrows. And so she's all black, but then she has these copper colored dots on her eyes and her feet and stuff. So anyway, she was a puppy, and at the time we all were working outside of the house, so we left her alone for like 10 hours at a time, which is never a good idea for a puppy, especially a lab. And she was in the kitchen. We blocked off the kitchen, and she managed, and I think what started it, there probably was a little bit of food or something that was on the wall, that splashed on the wall or something that we didn't know about. But I think what happened is she just was licking that spot all day, and then it got soft, because it's like,
Yeah.
What is that? Like sheetrock, I guess is what it's called. Or
The drywall.
drywall. There you go. And then eventually she got it soft enough that she could start biting it. And she literally made a hole like in the side of the wall. And we're like, what the heck are you doing? Oh my gosh.
Yeah. They're both Australian Shepherds, so they're like really,
Those are cool dogs. Yeah.
but they just chew on everything. Like we had a chair. We still have it because they love it too much, but there's like half of the arm is chewed off because
Oh no.
they just like wouldn't stop chewing it, so it's all torn up. But our boy dog is too attached to it. Like he sits in it all the time, so we can't get rid of it. But
So it's his chair now.
yeah,
That's cute.
but they just like wouldn't stop. So now it's like the wood for the arm is exposed, and there's holes all over it, and it looks like something you would see in a abandoned old timey house.
That's hilarious. Knowing your mom, she probably throws a blanket over it or something when people come over, because
Yeah, that's what we used to do actually.
I believe it. That's funny. Yeah, the things we do for our dogs, they really are part of the family. So, oh my goodness. All right, so back to this. We just got a few minutes left, but let's see. This one's shepherding the rise of a blockbuster industry. So this is part of his path to success, I would say. That topic, path to success, is pretty broad. So, but we do have, here we go, some more topics. Health problems, legal battles, and death. Let's put those down. Let me put those in the notes here. So health problems, A legal problems. I'm just putting probs because these are basically your notes.
Mm.
So nobody really has to see this part, but yeah. Here though, you might break this up a little bit because it does sound like he starts out with the Fantastic Four comics, but then obviously he was still alive when they became blockbusters. So I wonder if we could do, let me look back on that really quick. So like I said earlier, you would actually print these and then put these notes. Well, it's basically the titles. So I would highlight them or put them in the margin or something so you know where they're at. But Lee has become involved in a variety of multimedia projects while he was serving as ambassador for Marvel. So he started with the comic books, I'm pretty sure. Let's go back up here. Yeah, so the characters, I'm just kind of skimming some of this information here. Yeah, I'm thinking I would put comic books
All right.
and then blockbusters. Because these two are going to be part of this career path. So you're going to probably link these somehow, but career path is going to be so huge that you might want to break it up a little bit. Okay, so this is an example of how to start with your first source A. Then you would go on to source B, bedtime history stories, and do the same thing, skim through it. That one might not be as organized as this article, but and then list B next to whatever topics that you find in B. You might find something new that you would add down here and just put B. Then for homework, because we only have 2 weeks. I'm trying to think of how to do this. Do you think doing all, let's see, you're basically going to need 3 topics. So 3 sets of outlines is what you're going to end up doing. Is that going to be too much in 1 week? I mean, honestly, I don't really know how long it takes you to do like you did with the chimpanzees, where we started with crime and you did all those outlines and then made a fused outline. Is that how long did that take you to do that process, do you think? I know it's probably hard to say, but
I'm not really sure.
okay. Do you have a lot going on in your psychology class right now too?
No, because I think next week we won't have that many assignments just
Okay.
because we were on the last chapter this week. So, and it usually doesn't take that long to do that, but I think I should be okay.
How about this, since we're short on time? How about we just focus on 3 sources instead of 4? So you can just abandon one of your sources. Don't even print it. Pick the top 3 sources that you like. Okay. And then you're going to do A, B, C, and then fused. So these are your outlines. So how about you do just 2 of these sets of outlines? with your 3 sources just for this week. And does that make sense to you?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
So
So
it
yeah.
would be 3. I think I get it. I'm just gonna have trouble putting it into words, but
Yeah, so I'm just going to do a tiny miniature thing here. This would be your first. So let's say, and this is going to be 4, 5, 6, 7. This is the one with the clincher note and all that. So this is your fused. So you just do some, this can be 1, 2, 3, and then remember 4, 5 are optional, but you don't want to get more than that. You want to just try to get 3 sets of keywords for each of these topics. So let's say your first topic is early life. Remember, all of these are going to be early life. I didn't make enough room in my boxes. And this will be early life. So this will be like when he was born, where he grew up, who was in his family, and maybe even like his first jobs when he was a teenager, or what he did after school or whatever, if you want to start with his early life. So you would do looking at, let's say, the biography.com, all that it said about his early life in a keyword outline format. So 3 to 4 keywords, numbers and symbols are free. All of that still stays the same with your rules. Then you would look at bedtime history stories, make a little outline of his early life from that source. Then you would look at Britannica, or whichever one you drop, because you've got 4 sources, but now I'm going to narrow it down to 3 for you because I think it'll be a little easier to do. Mm-hmm. Look at source C, whether it's Britannica or liveabout.com or whatever, and then come up with your keywords here. Then from there, you're going to pick the most interesting, to put down in here in your fused outline. Does that make sense, Jasper?
Yeah.
Okay, good. So it's what we did for chimpanzees, but it's not as clearly laid out like they made it for you in your binder. You're going to have to pull from your information that you read. So what I want you to do is want Roman numeral 1, and then do the same thing again. Just going to do it really quick here because I think you got it. This will be Roman numeral 2. And this could be like A, B, C. This could be maybe his comic books or path to success, or, whatever topic you choose for number 2. You would do the same for each of these, like his comic experience, his comic book experience, how he got started doing that. And then you would do a fused, and this would be Roman numeral 2. Okay, you're going to do the same thing, pull information from here and make a fused. So that's your homework, is to come up with 2 fused outlines from 2 different topics. You'll be doing a third one, but rather than assigning all 3 at the same time, let's just start with, see how you do with 2. I got to push you a little bit because we only got 2 weeks, and I really want to see what you come up with your paragraphs at the end. So does that make sense, Jasper?
Yeah.
Okay, good. All right. So you're going to have to, skim through all your articles. You don't have to read word for word. Make your possible topics list, keep adding to this B and C. And then if you find other stuff, add to your list like we did for chimpanzees. Then from there, see which one has the most information. Probably want to start with early life just because it makes sense. You're doing a biography. So it makes sense to introduce, who this person is. And come up with these 2 fused outlines. And that's all you'll bring to class next week. And then we'll start going from there. Okay.
Mhm.
All right. Cool. Well, we survived. Your internet hung in there.
Barely.
Just barely. All right, Jasper, if you have any questions along the way, I feel free to text me. I don't mind if you text me. It's no problem.
All
Okay.
right.
All right. Have a good one. I'll see you next week.
All right. You too. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.